Very official. I'd like to call to order the meeting of Township High School District 113. It's a 3S school board meeting tonight, Monday, April 24th at 7 p.m. May I ask for a roll call, please?
Ms. Culver? Here. Ms. Gordon? Here. Ms. Hyman? Here. Ms. Bobby? Here. Ms. Meyer?
Here.
Ms. Littler?
Here. Okay, Mr. Small's on his way. I believe he's coming from the airport. Okay, before we move to approval of the agenda, I would like to read a quick statement to the audience and to our board. At the next board meeting of Township High School District 113, the board will undergo its annual reorganization. New and re-elected members will be seated for a 4-year term, and officers will be elected. Earlier this year at a governance session, the board discussed having members who were interested in seeking the presidency or vice presidency draft a platform outlining their reasons for seeking such office. While the board did not adopt a policy to this effect, I'd like to encourage members seeking the presidency or vice presidency to draft such an outline for inclusion in this week's packet for review by all board members. Since several board members have expressed interest, such platforms will clarify for all board members' positions and interests. In the meantime, I thank all of you, board members, for your consideration and your service to this board. At this time, can I ask for an approval of the agenda? Is there a motion?
Second.
Second. Okay. Voice vote? Or voice vote, please. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, citizens' comments. This is a new statement for anyone who was at our last meeting. We welcome your comments and questions and give them serious consideration. Pursuant to Board of Education Policy 2-230, please identify yourself and, if applicable, state the agenda item to which your comment is directed. Please limit the length of all comments to no more than 3 minutes per comment period. We will do our best to address your questions during the relevant agenda item discussion. For non-agenda related questions or for questions that require additional response time, we will follow up with you as well as report back at the next board meeting. At this point, we would like to move into reports, and may I call the student representatives? Lauren for Highland Park High School. Oh, I'm sorry. Were there any citizens' comments? I was so excited about the statement. Are there any citizens' comments? Seeing none, Lauren, would you come up, please? Thank you. You're right.
Thank you. With fourth quarter in full swing, the school year may be winding down, but the student activities going on at Highland Park High School most definitely are not. A huge congratulations to the entire high school and Is this better? Yeah. Sorry. Okay. A huge congratulations to the entire high school and HPHS Student Senate for raising a grand total of $140,456 for the Zacharias Sexual Abuse Center. And of course, the Highland Park community and surrounding communities. Not only were we able to help out such an amazing organization, but this year's charity drive enhanced the students' body awareness of sexual violence. A quick update on sports. Stephanie Chris, a freshman distance runner on the Highland Park High School girls track team, ran the best 800 meter in the state with a time of 2 minutes, 12.83 seconds. I can't wait to see the boys and girls track team accomplishments throughout the rest of the season and at their conference and state meets along with the other fantastic HP athletics. This past weekend, the HPHS Theater Department put on a perfect wedding. Which was amazing. Their next performance will be May 25th, 26th, and 27th, which will be their annual short play festival, which is written, directed, designed, performed, and operated entirely by HPHS students. Lastly, the excitement and the long-awaited focus of the Arts Festival is finally here. This week at school will be filled with a variety of artists, and the week introduces the student body to disciplines of art that none of us might be familiar with. Tuesday, April 25th, tomorrow, is opening night, which we will be joined by Emmy and Tony Award-winning Tyne Daly. Wednesday is art night, where The whole entire community will be able to view and interact with local and national artists as well as our very own HPHS students, with exhibits such as wood turning, printmaking, jewelry, and body painting. Thursday night is dance night, which will include performances by the Circa Rivera Dance Theater, the Chicago Repertory Ballet, Giordano Dance Chicago, Hubbard Street Dance Chicago, and Visceral Dance Chicago. April 26th through April 28th will include all of our daytime workshops. Admission to these events are all free of charge, but dance night and opening night require tickets for entry. I hope everyone can take away something from this fabulous week. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we call up Deerfield, we're going to take 2 steps back. And can I ask everyone at the table, please, besides board members, to introduce yourselves since we had a roll call?
Sure. I'm Sue Hepson, Assistant Superintendent of Instruction and Communication.
Chris Dignam, Superintendent.
Sandra Hassel, Executive Secretary to the Superintendent.
And members of the audience, would you also identify yourselves?
Marty Esker, DEA President.
Mike Muldrow, teacher at Deerfield High School.
Paul Harrison, teacher at Highland Park and parent at Deerfield. John Rowley, Athletic Director at Highland Park.
Robert Ruiz, athletic at Deerfield. Athletic director at Deerfield High School.
Tom Vogelsang, I'm responsible for the Media Center at Highland Park High School and the English Department.
Lauren Schneider, Vice President of Highland Park High School. Rachel Rappaport, Co-Officer of Student Council. Chloe, Co-Officer.
Matthew Swell, Co-Officer at Deerfield Student Council.
Lizzie Garlovsky, community member and board member of
Whoa. And it's official, almost. And so now can we ask Rachel and Matthew from Deerfield, would you come up, please?
So at Deerfield High School, we are in the middle towards the beginning of the spring sports season, and our girls and boys track and field teams both won in their indoor conference. So we're very excited to see what they have for their outdoor competitions. In addition, the boys lacrosse team won their senior night game.
It's a very big week for the Warrior Buddies Club at Deerfield. Last week was their End the R Word Week, which is their campaign for students to stop using the word retarded. And they had all sorts of projects going on in the Blacks, which is our main area. And they were also doing Misericordia Candy Days, which is a day if you go up to any member of Warrior Buddies and give them any change, they'll give you back jelly beans. And all the profits go to Misericordia, which is kind of a community center for adults with special needs.
In terms of the fine arts, the Deerfield High School Choraleers sang the national anthem at the White Sox game this past Friday. It was very exciting. They did a great job, and both parents and students were cheering them on in the crowds. In addition to the fine arts, Cats is next week, which is the first musical produced by the advanced theater class at Deerfield High School.
Tonight, it's actually going on right now, is the Spring Activities Night at Deerfield, which 8th graders get to roam around the Warrior Gym and kind of get a little taste of all the different clubs and sports that are available. Each one sets up a stand where you can sign up to get your name on a list, and all clubs are represented.
In terms of student council, we are beginning our freshman project, which is a project undertaken by the freshmen on student council, and they just pick something that will benefit either the community or the school. So they chose to benefit the Cancer Wellness Center, which was the second choice candidate for school chest. And this is the second year in a row where we did a type of event that benefited the runner-up for the school chest beneficiary.
This year, our annual Jam for Justice is raising money for an organization called the Water Project, which raises money for those without water in Africa. This event isn't until May 13th, but bands have already begun to sign up. Students typically perform solo and in groups in a concert in the courtyard. It's a really exciting day. Most people will say it's probably their favorite day of the whole school year. Food is served. There's advocacy projects related to the beneficiary there going on outside, and it's a really fun day.
But finally, on Deerfield Student Council, we're kind of transitioning into our next year. So we are going to have our 2 new officers, which is Samantha Linsing over there and Shelby Miller, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. So they'll be present at the next meeting. But thank you very much for this past year. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for your service. Tom Vogelsang, teacher representative, HPHS.
Good evening. Earlier this year, I talked a little bit about the TLC, and I wanted to give you an update on their progress this year. As of last Monday, peer tutors in the Learning Center collectively logged 1,049 tutoring sessions. That's 1,049 instances of student-to-student interactions that are focusing on some aspect of learning and development. Students who are not regularly in classes together come together in this room, and they interact with one another in a way that would not be possible without the TLC. Currently, the Learning Center has 19 peer tutors earning independent study credit. Now, what's interesting about that is those are not students that just go to the TLC and work with students, but in many cases, they're also working in classrooms alongside teachers. So I think that's a remarkable little twist to our Learning Center. By the way, each month the TLC selects a tutor of the month, and if you read the minutes, you'll be able to see the link that will allow you to read the little bios on these individuals. So once again, TLC is doing amazing work helping students solve math problems, revise essays, decipher difficult texts, and a variety of other things, as well as just maybe making kids feel a little bit more a part of the high school, a little bit more comfortable in the academic setting. Pablo Alvarez and Eliza Gilbert took approximately 20 students and parents to visit Aurora University on Saturday, April 8th. Attendees participated in a campus tour and informational sessions. This marked the final event in the Path to College program led by Pablo, Eliza, and Charo Mendoza. This initiative builds college-bound knowledge in Spanish-speaking parents whose children will be the first to attend college. Other events included attending the Niles Township College Fair and a series of evening workshops in February on admissions and financial aid. So each week throughout the year, members of Educators of Tomorrow volunteer as tutors and mentors at the after-school and activity program at Oak Terrace. And just recently, they sponsored a summer fun activities fair. 15 members of the organization worked with over 60 students, and they didn't just lead the activities, they also planned them ahead of time. And some of these activities ranged from creating butterfly mosaics, planting flower pots, and competing in fun games like jumping the puddles, obstacle course, and the dress the EOT member in rain gear. So once again, we see a club reaching out into the community to really do good things and also to help make that transition for kids when they do get to the high school, because they've already been working with high school students before they get here. If you read my minutes, you can also see a thank you note that one of the parents submitted. HPHS band director Josh Chodorov is this year's winner of the Chicagoland Outstanding Music Educator Award. This special award, first presented in 1989, recognizes excellence in the field of music education in the Chicagoland area. Josh was nominated by one or more of his peers, and he was selected by a panel of judges, many of whom have won the award in the past. So he'll be able to pick up his award at a presentation on June 13th. We have a student, Christina Raschiger, a sophomore in the dual language program. She won the 2017 Global Citizenship Award for her achievement in the National Spanish examination for her excellence in the Spanish language. What's really cool about this is she gets a scholarship worth $2,000 that will send her to the Concordia Language Villages in Bemidji, Minnesota. The scholarship will cover the cost of her tuition and the 2-week Spanish immersion program. Once again, this is one of many Spanish students that have gone on to do quite well in things like this. The Intro to Engineering and Design classes presented at Horizon Pharma in Lake Forest last Friday. Students in this class, most of whom are freshmen, by the way, were given a real packaging problem from Horizon, and they worked in groups to create a solution. And one of these groups was selected to present at Motorola Mobility at the Merchandise Mart this Thursday. The counseling department did another outreach where they worked with Family Services to organize college trips over spring break. 67 students participated in the program. These students were freshmen through juniors, and they went to Northern Illinois, North Central College, and UIC. The weather, I understand, was not very nice, but the kids had a great time, and many of them had never been on a college campus before, and they got to learn a lot about what college has to offer. Some of the returning participants that have been a part of this program for a while have now visited at least 10 distinct colleges. So the counseling department wanted to express their gratefulness for the support that they have received to continue to run this program. On Saturday, Matt Nieto and Melissa Zintara took 17 Rotary Interact students to the Ronald McDonald House at the Lurie Children's Hospital to prepare lunch for their Meals from the Heart program. Their theme was a day at the ballpark, and students did an amazing job. They also had collected over $500 and then purchased a ton of items that the Ronald McDonald House had on their wish list, and they donated that to the house on that day. As a side note, I interviewed one of the students that's a part of Rotary Interact, and he talked about the meaningfulness of going to the Ronald McDonald House and what a life-changing experience that was for him, going there and working with some of the kids that were sick. It was an amazing story that he had to tell. Today, over the past couple weeks, Mary Pike gathered a group of students to create a focus group to brainstorm the social justice mural rendering to be mounted on the brick wall between the Commons and the cafeteria. This is a space that had drinking fountains torn out, and this mural will cover up those spaces. Students from the Immigrant Voices class collaborated with the group as part of their semester project, requiring them to design, paint, and install a mural somewhere in the Highland Park community. The group, seizing upon focus, enlisted the expertise of the social justice muralist, who's going to be a part of this year's focus, and she was working with them today, and they completed the project this afternoon and now are ready to hang it up. So a very cool project. And then what was neat is today, students from both HP to the Third and Dreamers Club came together to assist the Immigrant Voices student with this mural. Yoga teacher Victoria Otto presented at Shape America Convention and Expo in Boston last month. Victoria's session featured mindful movements, an interdisciplinary approach that allows participants to connect with the music, the lyrics, themselves, and each other. In her particular program, she demonstrated how she uses the Black Eyed Peas song, Where is the Love, to create a safe platform for her yoga students to discuss topics involving social justice issues. That fascinated me, and she sent me a little link of her doing this. The room was absolutely packed with adults going right along with the lesson. It was fun to see. You heard about the freshman student that beat one of my former students' school record, Rashenda Peterson. Her time was 2:28, and Stephanie's was 2:12 in the 800 meters. That's an enormous, record, and it's the fastest time in the event in the state of Illinois this year. The varsity girls softball team is very excited because they beat Deerfield last week, and they also won their tournament over the weekend. So as I looked at a lot of these things, I realized that in comparison to some of my other board reports, there wasn't much here about things going on in classrooms. A lot of this were things happening outside of the class. And my takeaway from that is that our students are so energized by what goes on in the classroom. They just want to keep going and doing more after school and over spring break. So that's my interpretation. So I just want to conclude with one little anecdote, as I often do, and that is the day students could sign up for Focus. I had 3 students in my class that had gotten to school at 3:30 in the morning. And one of the students said to one of the students that had gotten there really early, I didn't come in early and I got everything I wanted. And the other student looked at the other one and said, you know, why would I take the chance of not getting something I really wanted to go to? And to me, that just communicated the power of Focus in our students' lives. They eagerly await this event because they know they're going to be exposed to some amazing things. Last night I got a message from a former student who's going to be presenting, and he was so excited that the Royals were in town to play the White Sox because he broadcast for the Royals, that he would be able to finally come to Focus. And what expertise and stories he can share with our students. It's really a remarkable thing. So from my perspective, I want to thank the school and the district for continuing to support just an amazing opportunity for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Principal report, Casey Wright for Highland Park High School, Assistant Principal.
Thank you. So I know our student representative Lauren spoke about Focus, and Tom did as well, but the energy and the excitement in the building is palpable. I mean, it's upon us this week. Hundreds of volunteers. It's a team effort. We've got 250 workshops. We've got staff presenting, local artists presenting, 61 alumni are presenting, and artists from all over the world and the nation are going to be with us this week. So we're excited. Tom mentioned our social justice muralist. I just saw Sam Kirk. She's right now working outside of the library entrance. She started the mural. Students will be there the next 2 days filling it in. She did focus groups with the students, and the themes were equity, inclusiveness, and a welcoming space for all. There's some amazing imagery already there in terms of the faces. And the students that Tom mentioned in American Voices, I met with them last week with Mary Pike. And yeah, they've collaborated with Sam Kirk, and they're super excited to have their own space right there outside the Commons, and we're proud of their work as well. So a lot of good collaboration and partnership with Focus this week. The other thing that the students mentioned actually in the focus groups, Sam just said this, was Chicano Bowl. That was one of the things that they were proud of, and that's this Saturday. So Chicano Bowl, this is our 20th annual Chicano College Bowl. This event is actually run by Jesse Villanueva and Charo Mendoza. It features Latino students from approximately 15 area high schools who come to Highland Park for a day of workshops on leadership, community activism, and fellowship. In the afternoon, the College Bowl begins, where each school competes in a Jeopardy-style quiz bowl about Latino history and culture. The competition is fierce. I was there last year, and yeah, the kids are super excited, and they prepare. They prepare for this event. Every school wants to bring home the trophy. After the contest, there's a big dinner and dance in the cafeteria. Each school brings a dance team. They perform a unique performance that expresses their pride and their Latino heritage. This is a wonderful and positive event in Highland Park, and it's the only school that we know of in the state of Illinois that does anything like this. And board members and community members are welcome to stop by throughout the day and the evening to check it out. So that's Chicano Bowl this Saturday. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the most important week is Staff Appreciation Week next week. So we've got a lot of things planned at Highland Park. Our administrative team has created plans on Monday, we're going to host departments are going to have dining experiences with lots of staff can visit different departments. Tuesday, we're going to have our Spirit, Soul, and Spa Day, where we'll focus on staff wellness with massages, yoga, art classes. Again, board members are welcome to join us on that day. We have Wednesday, staff a la carte, where members of AC roam throughout the halls with a cart of goodies, and we go into classrooms and we cheer and applaud their teachers, and we give the teachers a treat, not the students on that day. And then on Friday, we actually have Casa de Isaac that's going to come and do Taco and Tamales Day with food and guacamole demonstrations that are provided by our own Casa de Isaac and Froggy. So we're excited about that as well. So Staff Appreciation Week, we have at both buildings, Highland Park and Deerfield High School, a caring and talented staff, and we want to take the time to acknowledge them as well. And that's my principal's report for today.
Thank you. All right. So the record reflects Mr. Small has came in, and we will move to superintendent reports.
Thank you. Good evening. I have 4 FOIA updates to provide this evening. On April 12, 2017, Angel Rodriguez submitted a FOIA request regarding electronic communications. On April 24, 2017, we denied the request as voluminous and unduly burdensome. Ms. Rodriguez agreed to narrow her request on April 24, 2017, and we are currently gathering materials responsive to this request. On April 17th, we received a FOIA request from Pioneer Press Chicago Tribune Media Group regarding staffing levels and student visits to guidance counselors, social workers, therapists, and psychologists at both schools. We responded in a timely manner. On April 17th, 2017, we also received a FOIA request from the Pioneer Press Chicago Tribune Media Group regarding student lunch and PE periods. We responded in a timely manner. On April 24th, 2017, we received a FOIA request from Pioneer Press Chicago Tribune Media Group regarding AP testing. We are currently gathering information responsive to this request. In addition, on April 24, 2017, we received a FOIA request from Smart Procure regarding purchasing records. We are currently gathering information responsive to this request. In terms of updates, 2 important updates. 1, our strategic plan. We have provided a draft of the strategic plan to the Board of Education for review. We will be reviewing the draft and making recommendations to the third-party vendor we have used for improving the quality of the plan and ensuring the plan reflects the district's long-term goals and strategic view. We will also be conferring with Felicity Education. They are a third-party group that is handling the plan to discuss next steps and for sharing the draft with the community for review. In terms of the Highland Park Principal Search update, that is my second of my 2 updates. As a follow-up to our previous update regarding the principal search, as a reminder, we retained Rain Associates to conduct the Highland Park High School Principal Search. On Friday, April 14th, 2017, Rain Associates presented 7 semifinalists out of a pool of 30 completed applications. Human Resources Director, Mr. Tom Krieger, and I interviewed 6 semifinalists on Wednesday, April 19th. And from the semifinalist pool, we have identified 3 finalists. Our 3 finalists will be presented to the District Stakeholder Committee tomorrow on April 25th, 2017. This will be a final round of interviews in the process. The Stakeholder Interview Committee consists of parents, students, certified staff, non-certified staff, administrators, and 1 Board of Education member. Our principal search has been a multi-tiered process. We utilize a search firm and advertise the position nationally and locally. Associates from the firm have conducted screening and interviewing of candidates. Our HR director and I have also performed screening and interviewing of candidates. The Stakeholder Committee tomorrow will interview candidates and review a written response set from each candidate during the stakeholder interview process. We will also be checking references, credentials, and candidate backgrounds before making a decision. All of these steps are points of data and components of a data-driven effort by the district to identify a new Highland Park High School contract principal. Our goal is to complete this process this week and present to the Board of Education a contract principal on May 1st, 2017, or by May 1st, 2017. In the event we are unable to identify a contract principal, we will then still possess time to conduct a search for an interim principal prior to the conclusion of the school year, which is June 30th, 2017 in terms of the fiscal year. Thank you.
Okay. At this point, we will move to DHS and Highland Park High School athletics presentation. Mr. Ruiz, Mr. Rowley, we welcome you and thank you in advance.
I think we're okay. Thanks.
I'm in the middle.
Good evening. Before we begin tonight, on behalf of John and myself, I'd just like to take a moment to thank our administration and our school board for an opportunity to share with you some of the things that we do in our building on a day-to-day basis. So we look forward to sharing the information and look forward to your questions afterwards as well. Tonight you're going to hear a little bit about some of the success that we have, some of the opportunities that we're presented with. You'll hear a little bit about some of the challenges we might have, and especially some of the special initiatives that we're especially proud of. And then we're going to give you a sneak peek into what it looks like on a game day Friday night for an athletic director, which you might find kind of interesting. But for now, we're going to start with the introductions, just briefly. I'm Robert Ruiz. I'm the athletic director at Deerfield High School. Been in education for 23 years. I spent the first 15 years at New Trier doing a variety of things, mostly a teacher, coach, a department chair, and an assistant athletic director. In 2009, came over to Deerfield to become the AD. Currently, I'm very involved in the Illinois Athletic Directors Association. I currently sit on their executive board and do a variety of other things as it relates to that board and those initiatives. One of the things I can say that I'm most proud of that I'd like to share with you is a published article in an Athletic Management magazine that came out a couple of years ago. The important piece wasn't so much that I was published, and it's more about what the content was, and it was about giving kids an opportunity to become involved in athletics outside the game field. So that was an especially proud moment that I had that I wanted to share with you briefly as we introduce here. John?
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having us. My name is John Raleigh. I'm the athletic director at Highland Park. I also do want to thank the group and many people in this room for making Robert and I look really good, especially over the last couple of years with all of the facility enhancements that have been done at both high schools. What an exciting time to be an athletic director. What an exciting time to come in when construction was almost complete at Highland Park. Deerfield was a great partner to us in hosting our teams in a variety of sports. They couldn't have been better neighbors and partners with that. So thanks to everybody in the room that was involved with the referendum and the planning. I knew it was a ton of work and a ton of time, but very, very proud of the facilities that we have and very excited to keep using those spaces and seeing our kids and coaches working in those. So this is my 17th year in education. I spent the 15 years at Elk Grove High School where I was a social studies teacher. I was a coach there. I was also an athletic director there for 8 years. I made the jump to District 113 2 years ago and have had a tremendous experience in this school district. It's a highly professional atmosphere and an absolute perfect fit for me professionally. I also am involved in the Illinois Athletic Directors Association on the executive board with Robert. Really neat opportunity to sit on an executive board at the state level. We have an opportunity to network with some of, I think, the top athletic directors in the state of Illinois and learn how they're doing things and how we can make our schools better. So I'm very thankful for that. So we wanted to first talk just a little bit about what were some of the guiding principles of both our programs. This past summer, I had a workshop with some of our head coaches and collaborated on many things, which I'll speak to here in a few minutes. But one of the things that I thought was really important was for us to kind of get on the same page and talk a little bit about, what our motto is and what our vision is as an athletic department. We kept it simple. Coach Harris, gave me the recommendation to keep it simple with the motto, and I thank him for that. Our motto at Highland Park, and you see it everywhere. It's on our school crest. It's in our theater. It's everywhere you walk. Is to dream, believe, and achieve. And I think that's a perfect fit for what we try to teach in athletics. The second piece of that is our vision statement, and to me, it's about offering a program that's first class. It's a first class school district. It's a first class high school. We offer a great academic program, and we want our athletic program to reflect that as well. So we really want to set the standard in athletics, academics, and sportsmanship.
The 4 principles that we use is actually something that we came up with about 4 years ago. Is we got together a group of coaches to talk about what is it we believe in when we talk about the value of athletics. And after a variety of meetings and brainstorming sessions, we landed on these 4 areas. And I would say they're probably in a little bit of priority order, starting with the least priority at the beginning. We want to become better at sports. We should be better from the time we start to the time we leave. So that's what we mean in terms of competitive excellence. Doesn't necessarily equate to winning all the time. It just means we're better at what we're doing. We're certainly interested in partnering with our community, whether that's our village or our park districts or our sender schools. We think it's incredibly important that we teach life lessons through sports. There's some invaluable things that you're going to learn about yourself, about being a teammate, about adversity, about challenges, about winning and losing, that you're not going to learn in a classroom. So we think our coaches have an extra classroom outside of the school day. And then finally, and probably most important, is trying to create a positive experience in all of our programs, in all of our levels, from all of our coaches. And I think by and large, our coaches get that done every day. I hear from a variety of parents and kids about the wonderful experience that they have. They don't always share those every day, but the ones that do, we really appreciate it because we know we're getting it done where it's most important.
Did I skip? Okay. So just wanted to give you a very quick overview of our high school, our athletic department, the number of coaches, the games, and those types of things. So our enrollment right now sits at 2026, and I do think it's going to jump a little bit next year, maybe by 30 or 40 students. We currently offer 27 athletic programs, which comparatively to the suburbs, the North Shore, the northwest suburbs, is pretty equal to what most high schools are offering in the area. And we'll have some slides that kind of reflect what the Central Suburban League, the league that we're in terms of how many programs those high schools offer. We currently have around 116 coaches on our coaching staff, and they're supervised by myself, and then my assistant athletic director, Colleen Boylini, helps me in the supervision and evaluation of those coaches. We do have from time to time volunteer coaches, so that number can fluctuate a little bit. You take a look at the number of games that we play each year. That's both home and away. That's a pretty staggering number, 1,562. In terms of tournaments that we host, that can vary anywhere from about 12 to 15. I do see that number jumping a little bit with the new facilities that we have, with the new swimming pool and the new, the new gymnasium. So that's exciting. I think anytime we get an opportunity to showcase our school and our facilities, it's great. I love hosting events. I love having people come in. It's kind of like having Thanksgiving dinner at your house. You have everybody over and you make a big meal, but then you got to clean up. That's the not so fun part of it. And then the last thing is IHSA, the Illinois High School Association reaches out to high schools all over the state to see if we can host regional tournaments, sectional tournaments, and then hopefully someday super sectional tournaments. But again, it not only gives us an opportunity to showcase our school and our facilities, but I also think it gives our kids a competitive advantage too to play at home, and a little home court advantage that sometimes we all appreciate.
I'll hit just a couple of highlights here. Obviously, our school is just a little bit smaller, approximately about 1,650 students. We have about 950 unique athletes, although we roster about 1,450 or so each year. That means most of our kids are going to play 2 sports. A handful of them will play 3, which means we have a lot of good athletes, not necessarily great ones, but good ones that we share amongst all sports. And we'll talk more about that in just a moment. We have 29 athletic programs, 15 boys and 14 girls programs at this time. And as John mentioned earlier, the number of contests that we play throughout the year, we're talking about 1,600 contests. That means somebody's got to schedule those contests. That means for about 50% of those, we're at home. That means our facilities are taxed. That means the resources that we've got to put into hosting an event, whether that's somebody to run a clock or run a gate or do the concession stand or all those things. So it's a significant undertaking to host an event, but we're excited that we do it. Obviously, many of those events we host on the same night. It's not unusual that we have 7 or 8 things going on at any particular time. But that's the nice thing about the way our facilities are. Not so much maybe at Highland Park, but at least at Deerfield, that we're all on the same property. So it's easy to get in and out and be able to see a variety of things. I want to move on here, just talk about a few numbers here. John mentioned the Central Suburban League just a moment ago. That's the league that both of our schools compete in. It's made up of 12 schools. in the suburbs here, and they're listed here on the slide on your left with the blue, whichever way you're looking. Okay, the blue graph, and they're sorted there from the largest school to the smallest school, and you can see that the first 6 schools are of the largest enrollment, and then the bottom 6 are those that have the least enrollment in there. And currently, the CSL bylaws stipulate that the schools are divided into 2 divisions based on enrollment. So when we talk about the north and the south, we're really talking about the highest number of schools versus the lowest number. As John alluded to earlier, the one thing that's really fantastic about the Central Suburban League is if you look at the red graph now, the number of programs that all of these schools offer their kids. So there's a lot of parity across the league, which makes scheduling for us fantastic, obviously. It gives us a chance to create some really natural rivalries with other schools. Saves us a little bit on resources too, so we can take a bus to one location versus 4 buses to different locations, so there's a little financial break there too. The league is over 50 years old and is probably one of the best leagues in the state, and it's probably the most stable league as well. I wanted to give you just a little snapshot about how the 2 schools, or all of our schools, have performed over the last 5 years. And you'll notice in this particular slide, we still have Waukegan listed because these are the last 5 years, not including this particular year. And these scores are made up over 5 years based on the total program. And I'll explain a little bit more about how the points work in just a second. But what I want to highlight to you there, you'll see New Trier has all the bars up at the very top, over 90. But if you look over to the right, you'll see you'll see Deerfield and Glenbrook North and Highland Park, all up at about the same spot, which means these are 3 very, very good schools that are very athletic and very competitive. So in any given year, one of these 3 schools is probably going to win more than the other school. To give you an idea, if you want to break it down a little bit further in terms of success over the last 5 years, you can see that New Trier there is one, and then again followed by Deerfield, Glenbrook North, and Highland Park. So the North Division, the smaller enrollment schools, have done significantly better than some of our larger counterparts across the league. And so we're really proud of all of those numbers, at least over the last 5 years. I think it speaks pretty highly of both of our schools.
And just one thing to clarify, the data that was shared on this slide and the slide prior, those are the number of conference championships that are won. That's how we figure those factors. So that's pretty good. I mean, each season we're winning 2 or 3, and we have a lot to be proud of fall, winter, and spring with our programs. So we'd like to talk a little bit about what's working well. Like I mentioned before, our new facilities are absolutely incredible. It's been a lot of fun to take a swim coach and a water polo coach into the new facility and just kind of see their reaction, to see kids' reactions in the spaces, and even to see visiting teams when they come in. They just, their mouths just are wide open and are so impressed about what we're doing. I think Robert and I have both made a very concerted effort to not only be very proud of our facilities, but to showcase them and to have some social media presence as well. We both are very active on Twitter. That's kind of a pretty popular medium now, where people are looking for updates on scores and looking for highlights of things that happen not only during the week but on the weekends. But then we also have an opportunity to showcase those facilities and take pictures and stuff. But what beautiful facilities that we have at both of our schools. So we broke down some participation numbers for you, as well as kind of what our students are doing in the classroom in terms of GPA. So you can kind of take a look. I don't need to read every single number to you there on the screen, but you will see that we have pretty good participation. We took it back 3 years, and we used our Infinite Campus kind of student information system to gather this data. And then down on the bottom, you'll see how our kids are achieving in the classroom. And as we all know, and I can speak to that, for me personally, when I was playing sports, I was always doing better academically, and I think that's a message that our coaches continue to preach, and Robert and I try our best to preach it when we have the opportunity to be up in front of our communities. But, you know, athletics just really give our kids good routines and good habits, and hopefully those things continue to carry on into college and beyond.
Continuing on with some of the things that are working very well. I think John and I both are trying to celebrate our kids and our schools as much as we possibly can. Here's a couple of examples on our college recognition days. Deerfield has one recognition day, which actually is tomorrow at noon. We'll be celebrating 16 young men and women tomorrow. If you'd like to come by in the courtyard, hopefully the sun's out. It'll be a nice venue. We invite moms and dads, obviously their families as well. We have some nice introductions, and we've invited our counselors as well, since they're part of that picture, obviously with our coaches and our student athletes. And it's a nice time to recognize all their hard work and all of their sacrifice over the last 3 or 4 years, and probably more than that for some of those kids. And while it's not very well seen here, Highland Park also has about as many kids as we have going on to play in college. They do 3 recognition days at Highland Park, so that's just one of the snapshots of their particular school. But John and I have been both really blessed with kids who are really willing to work hard, with parents and a community who's really supportive of athletics, and obviously our booster clubs and administration who really support the things that we do. So we're really excited about celebrating those kids.
So part of the Giants mission, in the acronym, the word Giants, the S is all about being selfless. And we talk a lot about the we over the me. Our coaches really preach this, and they really push our kids to get outside of their comfort zones and to get out into the community and do service projects. We highlighted just 2 or 3 here, but a couple that I could really speak to. This picture down here in the bottom right, those are just some of our baseball kids doing a bingo event with some folks at the senior center in town. But another couple that happened this year, our girls swim team, we host an invite. It's about 8 teams, and all of the proceeds from the invite, from the concessions and from the ticket sales, go to Curry High School in the Chicago public school system to purchase new swimsuits for that team. And they've done that now 2 years in a row. And the kids from Curry sent us pictures and, you know, the thank you cards of the girls. Really just an awesome thing to be able to do for some students that just don't have the access to resources that our kids are lucky enough to have out here. So I think we'll talk a little bit more about some community service in a later slide. You want to add anything to this, Robert?
Just briefly here, I think it's important to note that a lot of our kids are willing and want to do things around our own building too. It isn't always about raising money. It isn't always about helping others. I think sometimes it's okay to help yourselves too. And the picture right there in the center just happens to be some of our female swimmers who volunteered to go out with me and get their paintbrushes out and paint the yellow pylons red. And then a few years ago, before the new bleachers, we also painted the garage and everything out on Waukegan Road. A prettier color of gray than was out there. So proud of that kind of work. I'll give it back to John.
Okay. You know, another thing that I think we've really tried to make an effort doing is celebrating success, particularly when our teams make it to the state level. I know for Robert, he's tried to really use some of the new facilities to showcase those events. So you see the picture in the new swimming pool and the bleachers for some of their swimming athletes. You know, one thing that I came from a different school where we didn't have a lot of this going on, and so I'm really proud and happy to see so many of our kids participating at the state level. You know, Mr. Vogelsang mentioned in our students about our runner that just had the top time in the state of Illinois. I mean, that's really, really impressive. So it's a lot of fun, but I think it's a testament to our community, to the resources that our kids have available to them, to the top-notch coaching that they're receiving in our building, and then the hard work that our kids put in. You know, Tom, you mentioned that our kids just don't stop working, and they don't. I mean, on spring break, we had kids on the track running and training, and you just see them out all the time, and it pays off. So we really try to showcase things each season where our teams, if individually are going to state or as a team go to state. And that's really just, I mean, so awesome to see as an athletic director, to see your school's name and kids' names down at those state tournaments throughout the state. Is that me again? Okay. And then here's some more continued pictures of our state send-offs. You know, we really try and greet the kids the morning of when they leave. And do a send-off from the building. We have had the police escort them out a couple times. Now, that request isn't met every single time because those guys have a job to do, but that has been neat when we've been able to have a police escort go out. Robert, do you want to add anything to these?
No, but I think some of the things we celebrate, too. You see the lower picture there, and I know Highland Park does this as well, but we're celebrating seniors, moms and dads on senior night. You know, sometimes it's the last home game. Sometimes it's just the last moment that this young man or young lady are going to put on a uniform at Deerfield High School. So it's a special moment. And as a guy who's got a junior in high school, I'm starting to understand how precious those moments are becoming as well. So, and then just you'll see Joey Calistri there, who's a former soccer player who plays for the Chicago Fire now, who came back on Pegasus night. Just to give back a little bit, share some of his insight with some of our younger kids and so forth. So just kind of some fun ways to recognize people who have been with us. We want to talk a little bit about program development here and kind of connecting it back to some of the guiding principles. You know, a lot of the work that we do isn't really all about athletics. It's all about the experience that kids get and how else can we educate. And obviously we're interested in service learning. We're interested in showing kids the importance of being able to give back. And that's why you'll see John and I work so hard on trying to encourage every program to do something. The bottom picture here is our Boys and Girls Lacrosse program who get together on one night, have a big pizza party before they go out to Feed My Starving Children, where they pack an enormous amount of boxes for those in need. And now it's kind of filtered into their parents too. So now it's parents and siblings and the entire program. So I think that cafeteria was pretty full the night we went to do that particular project.
Yeah, the picture that you see at the top with the dog in the van in the background. Coach Harris came to me earlier this year in December about an event that the Illinois Basketball Coaches Association was sponsoring, and it was called Troop Dreams. And really the theme of the evening and the event and the whole deal was to raise funds for local vets. So we had a basketball game where we had some local vets. I don't know if you've ever been to a Blackhawks game, how they do that right before the national anthem. So we had 4 local vets come out and had the colors presented. And the one vet that we were really trying to raise funds for is a gentleman by the name of Lon Hodges. And this is his service dog, Gander. And Gander has been with Lon for a few years now. Lon has some issues with PTSD. The evening was great. The basketball game was great. Gander sat at attention with everybody at half court while the national anthem was playing. It was really kind of cool to see. But as a result of the fundraising efforts, we did have some anonymous donations made as well. The funds were able to purchase Lon a brand new van and trailer to be able to travel across the United States to continue to spread his message to vets that suffer from PTSD. So really, we just got the results from this actually last week. So what a great event. And again, I think it shows our kids that our coaches are willing to do stuff like this and that our community is. And it just is, it builds great connections and relationships within our school and our athletic program.
Moving on to opportunities, I think John and I see an outstanding wealth of opportunities. With our new facilities, bring some interesting and intriguing pieces that we weren't able to consider before. Now we can begin to reach out to our junior highs and even our elementaries to begin to invite them into whether it's a practice or maybe it's a game or maybe we want to host one of their games here, but to begin to make the high school the center point of the community so that they're all excited about coming here. We know there are other organizations, whether it's the PTO or CTAD or even activities that we want to partner with because we share athletes and we share a variety of messages together. But I think if we group ourselves together, we can have a little bit more a powerful message coming from a variety of different areas that I think kids will respond to. Obviously, we're interested in creating some new feeder programs for any of our existing programs. I think it's important to try to teach our young people the sport. I think the benefits for us are later as they come to our school. Our programs are going to flourish, our levels and our participation levels are going to maintain, and obviously we're hoping to teach those life lessons that we were talking about earlier as well.
So just to speak briefly about some of the challenges that Robert and I foresee, in our jobs as athletic administrators. I think one of the biggest things that we've both seen is we've got these incredible new spaces, but they're huge and they need a lot of attention. They need supervision. We've been able to have extra security at Highland Park, but it's kind of stretched those folks thin to be able to supervise those places. We've got classrooms and a fitness center and locker rooms, great big gymnasium and swimming pool. So that's one thing. And I think also now that we have these top-notch facilities, we want to really make sure that we're taking good care of them. I'm amazed at our coaches, how much they collaborate and work together to take care of our stuff. But I think we got to continue to have that focus and that mission to maintain and take care of our facilities. I think a second thing that I've seen is that trying to provide activities and extracurricular things for everybody. We really want our kids involved. We do miss some kids, and so I think we just need to continue to look at what those groups are, who those groups are, and continue to try to build connections. I talk about this all the time. Really the only reason why I've succeeded is because I've been connected to really good people. I've been on a really good team. Coach Harris talks about this a lot in conversations that we have when we talk sports. And I think it's so important for kids to find those connections and get inspired by adults in our building to do great things. I think another challenge is that in this era of technology and instant information, I think sometimes we need to learn to teach people to be patient. They want results posted right away. They want information posted right away. They, students that maybe are struggling academically think if they turn something in, their grade changes right away and they're automatically eligible. There still are parameters that we have to follow that the IHSA needs us to follow in terms of those kinds of things. So just, being realistic about sharing information and getting information very quickly. We certainly try our best to do that, to get that information to people. Another thing that we've seen is student participation is continuing to increase, and so there might be additional support that's required. And what I mean by that is we might need some more coaches to support those kids. We have some rosters that are huge that don't have, in my opinion, and Robert's, because we talk about this all the time, enough coaches. So I think we need to kind of revisit some of that stuff to get that additional support to our teams. I think another challenge, and this is not just unique to Highland Park and Deerfield, is sports specialization. We've seen this, throughout the United States, where student athletes are choosing to just play one sport and kind of put all their eggs in one basket and not participate in other sports. I'm very happy to report that our coaches encourage and work together to get kids to play other sports. Hey, if you don't make this team, hey, there's this opportunity for you. Hey, if you're playing this sport in the fall, this might be a great opportunity for you in the winter. And having those conversations with one another to get our male and female students out playing more than one sport. And then I think, the last piece here is just staying current with what the IHSA has required. That landscape has changed over the last few years with all of the attention now that we've had on, concussion and oversight and care of our student athletes. That's a lot. The coaches are asked to do a lot with that. Our athletic training staffs are asked to do a lot with that. And then Robert and I have a lot of stuff that we need to maintain to make sure that our people are up to date with the certifications that they need to meet, and then also for us as well.
All right, I think John and I will tag team this one just a little bit. In terms of professional development for John and myself, we attend 2 conferences throughout the year. A state conference, it's usually in beautiful Peoria. And then obviously a national conference. It's typically somewhere in some of the southern states where the sunshine is out. Those are great opportunities for John to get out, for John and I to get out and talk with, meet with, discuss topics with other people about things we're experiencing in our schools, find out some of the things that they're doing. Sometimes we get some great information. Sometimes we're just sharing information. But what we've learned is that there's a great network of people. There are over 20,000 athletic directors in the country, and all of them have similar but different stories, and they all have a different way of how they can attack a problem or begin to try to eliminate some problems or enhance some things for us. And so that kind of collegiality has just been phenomenal for John and myself to be able to attend. So we appreciate the support that we get from our group to be able to do that.
I think, too, that I really think it's very important for us to focus on coaches getting better at their jobs and getting professional development. So much of what we focus on in the school sometimes is on teachers and their professional development. But I also think it's paramount for coaches to get that professional development. And I think it's important for guys like Robert and I to model that. So these national and state conferences have been absolutely tremendous in our professional growth, and I really am very thankful that we have those opportunities to do those things. I really try every month to send out a newsletter to our coaches to talk a little bit about maybe a good book that I've read. I've got kind of a long drive every day into school, so I call that Automobile University. So I try to learn a little something on the ride in. Yeah, I like to play some tunes and stuff like that, but I also want to take a half hour or 40 minutes and listen to a podcast by, maybe a top-notch person in leadership, or a very successful coach, or an audio book that I'm very interested in, and then share those things out with coaches and what we've learned. And then I think our coaches do a great job of attending clinics at the local, state, and national level, and we try our best to support those efforts.
All right, well, we've got a significant list here of some special initiatives that both John and I are trying to get off the ground. We won't talk about all of them here. We'll highlight just a couple. The Athletic Leadership Council, I know John has one at Highland Park. We started one this year at Deerfield called the Warrior Athletic Leadership Council. And essentially what we've done is we've reached out to coaches and we said, we need your best junior leaders. Who are the ones that have some leadership potential, who are willing to be coached, who are willing to be mentored, who are willing to learn how hard this job is, but how meaningful this job is. And so this year we've got 29 of those students who are juniors. They've been meeting on late start days with an outside facilitator that I brought in, who is a phenomenal speaker as it relates to leadership and growth. He's a former athletic director and teacher in the state of Illinois as well. So these 10 late start days, I got to give it up to the kids because, I mean, they could be sleeping in, but they choose to show up at 7:30 and they'll spend an hour and 45 minutes with us each of those mornings. But the idea is to teach them those things about leadership that are so significant, things about work ethic, things about confronting others, and things about how to be a better teammate and how to get your teammates to be better themselves, and how to be an encouraging teammate and have a great attitude and those kinds of things. The reason that part is so important to me is because this group is the nucleus we're going to use next year when we begin to tackle some of those items with CTAD. All right, we know that use and abuse by some of our younger kids and even our high school kids is significant. And if one kid's drinking, that's one too many. But this group, I think, has had some significant enough training that next year we'll be able to have a nice group to start with who can help us begin to form a really strong and powerful drive to encourage other kids to not use. And again, I think we got a little bit of a head start. I love the work that John Underwood is doing. I love the work of Life of an Athlete. I'm excited that might come to our school next year as well. And extremely excited that I've got a group of kids that's going to be able to give us a head start doing that. So pretty proud about that. John, you want to talk about a couple?
Yeah, and John Underwood actually came to my community a couple years ago, and it has been great all the way down into the grade schools. And you see kids all over the community wearing those shirts and, going to his presentation. So I think it has had a great effect, and I'm very hopeful that we can get that going in District 113. A couple of other things that we've really tried to do at Highland Park, some special initiatives. We have collaboration time Wednesday mornings. Some of those are with course teams, so I certainly want to be respectful of teachers and the need to meet with their colleagues on the myriad of things that they need to do. But we do have some self-directed time at Highland Park, so I've made an effort to try to have some head coaches meetings during that time. It doesn't always work out because people are being pulled in so many different directions, but that has been very valuable time to get as many of our head coaches together and discuss, IHSA topics, or, what are some things that we need to get better at as a department, or, talking a little bit about, hey, I'm a head coach and I've been doing this now for 15 years. Here are some things that I've learned along the way, and just kind of helping and mentoring some of our younger coaches. Another thing that we're trying to get going once again is our Athletic Hall of Fame. Highland Park has got a really kind of cool Hall of Fame that they've already established about 10 years ago, and so continuing to look for people in our community and around the country that achieved at a very high level at our school and recognize them. That's an effort that we are currently trying to revamp a little bit here in the next couple of months.
Okay, well, you're almost done. We have 2 slides left. This is the day in the life of an AD, so we thought we'd give you a snapshot. We won't start at 5:30 in the morning. We'll start about noon. So let's assume it's game day Friday, and it's about 12 o'clock, so it looks a little bit like this. Understand that these games were probably scheduled 2 years ago. All right, so the schedule's already done, so if you're interested to know when homecoming is, it's already in our calendar, maybe not the public calendar yet. At any rate, so it starts about noon. We'll get out to the fields for pregame. We'll unlock all the bathrooms, all the concession stands. We get the pylons out, get the field markers out, check to make sure the bathrooms are clean, things like that, and check the trash cans to make sure that they're emptied and things simple like that. Obviously, we'll set up anything else that we need, our tents for our booster club, or maybe we're doing some other special things, so we'll do those kinds of setups. We're going to wait for our teams to show up, so as soon as we see a bus, John and I are going to go out, greet the teams, show them where the locker room is, and try to be as hospitable as we can. Obviously, we do the same thing for our officials when they show up. Obviously, it's a little different for them. They need to park a little bit closer in case they need to leave pretty fast at the end of a game. They can do that. Certainly, we're paying attention to where the media is. Anyone that's got a camera these days is part of the media. And so it's a little bit challenging to keep everybody off the field and away from the basketball courts. But obviously, we try to be accommodating to them. We want them here. We want them to write about our kids and our schools and our programs. Finally, we've got to work with our school staff who are here to do some supervising to help make sure everything is safe. We work with our security and our parking lot people to make sure everybody has a place to park, especially those who have some significant challenges in getting in and out of our facilities. And then obviously we're going to make sure that our buses are moving somewhere else because they take up so much room. So that kind of gets us a little bit to kickoff and halftime. And at that point, we're going to get into orchestrating what halftime looks like. We've got the drill team, we've got the POMs, we've got the cheerleaders, we've got the band that's out there. Maybe we're going to have a special recognition night too. Maybe we're going to do a ribbon cutting or do some kind of a presentation. And we orchestrate all of that in 12 minutes. Which is a little bit of a song and dance really fast. And we hope nothing goes wrong, like the sound system. And then obviously post-game is just a little bit less than that. Actually, the third quarter, we can sit back and maybe have a pop for just a moment and then kind of gear up for the end of the game where, depending on what the game is like, if it's really close, things are going to look a little bit different. If it's very hostile, it's going to look a little bit different. And if it's a blowout, well, then obviously that'll look real different. But obviously, we've got to make sure we take care of our officials to get them out safely. We make sure that the facility is picked up, cleaned up. Usually we're playing in that thing the very next morning at 9 o'clock, so it needs to be ready to rock the next day. And then obviously we're going to kill the lights as soon as we walk out of there. So it's a little bit to do. Most people will, when they ask what I do, and I tell them I'm an athletic director, I said, oh man, that's awesome. You get to go to games all the time. And I'm like, you're right, it is. It's really exciting. And I share the others. I don't share the other stuff with them, so I'll just let them believe what they want. But obviously, John and I can't do it ourselves. We've got some phenomenal assistants. We've got some great support people at school, our maintenance staff, our security staff. Our administration is there too, and our deans are there. And obviously, our staff members are there too. So it takes an entire group to pull just one night off, and hopefully nothing goes wrong.
And then the weather turns. So we've both experienced a lot of, pretty crazy situations with weather, but, the thing that I'm amazed about, this is my 10th year in athletic administration. When I first started, electronic communication was just kind of getting off the ground. So it was, notebook paper with magic marker and maybe on the wall outside your office. But now that has gotten a lot easier to be able to communicate. But, we do need to be cognizant of that stuff. And Robert and I have both had a lot of professional development on emergency action plans and when weather turns, what to do. Not only, finding the other team's bus and getting them on the bus and making sure that the bus driver is there to pick them up, but also getting the officials inside, getting the fans out of the stands. They're sitting in, aluminum bleachers, and almighty Thor goes off and the lightning, is in the sky. We need to get people to a safe place. And then, the other big challenge, too, is then trying to reschedule events. And that's the work that our assistant athletic directors do, is getting on the phone with other schools' athletic departments and finding dates that things will work, making sure that we have officials there, that we have workers, that we have a bus, that we have the field. The facility is available. There's not something else scheduled there. So I think sometimes people really take for granted what goes on into putting on an athletic event. It's not just rolling a cart of balls out and putting the baskets down. It's a lot more than that. But that's the fun of the work, and I will say I'm never bored.
And then our final slide of the night, John and I are extremely excited about creating these partnerships with, or continuing the partnerships that we have with our park districts and our junior highs and the villages of each of our schools that feed into here. Obviously with CTED and our parent organizations, we're really looking forward to the kind of work we're going to get done next year. And obviously it's, we haven't talked at all really about the Booster Club, but what a significant group that those people are to continue to do the work they do to supplement the things that we need. There are a lot of things that we get through our regular budget, but then there are those things that we wish we had that they make sure we get. And obviously like the turf isn't a perfect example, or maybe the lights, or maybe the tennis screens. I mean, the list goes on and on from the Giants Club and from the Deerfield Booster Club. So pretty significant group there that we appreciate their partnership.
And we've really been able to partner very, I think greatly with our park districts, our administrative team, our activities departments, and just getting on the same page with those folks. And our booster club at Highland Park, and I know at Deerfield, what a talented group of people. And just tapping the resources there and getting a plan together, they're just tremendous in the support that they offer us.
All right. Well, that concludes our presentation tonight. 2 minutes ahead of time. John and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Hyman, do you want to start? Do you have any questions?
I would like to thank you very much. It was great to hear how things have moved forward and changed and evolved since I know I had students that were participating in athletics, and what I like to see when I hear you both speak, it hammers home, I guess is a better way to say it, the feeling that students have to connect with somebody. It's important that all students connect with somebody, and very often it winds up being one of their coaches if they're an athlete. Or even if they're not an athlete, it can be a coach if they are a student that hasn't connected with another group of students, because I believe the athletic department is used to dealing with that, the team spirit, trying to teach students. So I loved a lot of what you talked about, all of what you talked about, and I thank you for all that you do.
Elena?
I do. Thank you also for a wonderful presentation. I think it's a tribute to the district that you represent really addressing the needs of the whole child, in effect. So we know how we're doing academics. This was very refreshing. My question is, we've been talking a lot about student stress and time management, and I'm thinking about those students that maybe would like to participate in 2 or 3 different sports. Do they ever talk to you about, I would love to coach, but I just can't because I have A, B, and C going on in my life? Or how do they prioritize when they would like to participate in more?
Well, I think kids are pulled in many directions. You know, our district has a very rigorous, you know, academic program that it offers, and so I think some kids start. Our kids are very bright, as you saw, the young people that were up here speaking. I think they start to prioritize, can I really do it all? And sometimes academics does trump being out on a sport, and we certainly want to support that. But I do think that is definitely a challenge for us every year, is to get more kids out for sports. And we really try to showcase what we offer and try to encourage kids. But at the end of the day, I think sometimes the pull of the academic side of things gets them sometimes.
Thank you.
Ms. Meyer?
Thank you. Loved specifically the celebration you do, the community service participation. My question, I'm not even sure this still happens. I know that just a couple of years ago, the gymnastics team was shared across both high schools, the boys gymnastics, I don't know about girls. And I was wondering, as you think about additional programs, if you see more opportunities for maybe smaller sports or teams that could be shared across the 2 high schools.
I'm going to say yes, there probably are some of those opportunities. Back in the day, we used to co-op bowling with both of our groups, and at some point the Highland Park numbers got pretty low, and so we just kept the program over at Deerfield. You know, I think there are opportunities to inquire from our kids. What else are you interested in? What else can we offer that we're not offering? And obviously John and I can do those kinds of surveys for kids. The challenging piece is obviously the resources. Do we have the facility in which to house something like that? And do we have the coaching staff? Because it isn't just as easy as creating the program. You have all the other things. You need a bus, you need a coach, you need a facility, you need a schedule. I mean, it's pretty significant. But I think we're always looking for ideas and opportunities that kids might be interested in. And you know, for example, lacrosse has been trying to start up over the last decade, and now has just finally gotten the support from the IHSA to become a sanctioned sport too, and that's taken a few years. And you're talking about 120 different boys and girls teams in order to show the interest. So not only do you need a great idea, but you need a significant number of other schools willing to do that. I remember Stevenson trying to start a boys badminton team, and I think that's awesome. I love that sport. The problem is, when do you play it? Because the courts aren't available anytime because of volleyball and maybe the girls badminton team as well.
Ms. Gordon?
Thank you. Thank you. This was awesome. I loved hearing everything you talked about. It's exciting, all the things we're doing. Thanks for the updated slides on the competition. If we could get a copy of those couple slides that you added, that would be great. And I applaud the outreach that you're doing to the communities, to the sender schools, because I do think starting interest in some of these sports when they're younger makes a big difference for these kids. And it seems like sports are starting younger for kids, and I applaud that. And I know, John, I've seen you put that in the couple years you've been here. I see more of that, so thank you for that. And thanks for all you do publicly. I'll point to John on this one with respect to having an outdoor field in the middle of a residential area. That's challenging. You didn't list that on your daytime challenges, but I know personally how much that takes to pull off, so I just want to thank you publicly for all you're doing on that. The question I have is around participation. So if you look aggregate students participating in the sports, Highland Park is lower than Deerfield, but it seems pretty proportionate based on the number of programs you have. So I think my question is do you think we have the right number of kids participating? Are we concerned that Highland Park, as a bigger school, has a lower athlete count? Is that something, would we consider increasing the number of programs? Is that something that, do you think we're accommodating all the kids who do want to participate at both schools? Is that a clear enough question? Sorry, it was.
You know, what I would say to that is that we have been able to field levels in all of our programs. Would we like to see more kids out? Yeah, I do think in the fall and spring you have to remember those are very heavy seasons in terms of number of programs that are offered. You know, you've got 12 and 11 in those seasons. So I think sometimes when you offer so much, sometimes you do see lower participation in some of those other smaller programs. And, you know, in the winter season is kind of our lightest season. But yeah, again, you know, when we have a program that has numbers that look like they're probably not as big as they should be, that's part of the work that Robert and I need to do with head coaches and try to just brainstorm ideas of how we can get participation. Do we need to do more outreach? You know, do we need to look at other ways to generate interest?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It was a great presentation, and I especially, like it's been said, is the emphasis on community service and outreach and leadership, the idea of leadership, and then sort of empowering them with leadership roles, I think is really great. I'm wondering if what the percentage is of coaches that are also teachers, and is there an advantage to keeping your coaching staff in-house? You like my question.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's a significant challenge. I would say that our number is probably going to be somewhere between 50-60% of our staff that teaches in the building or is a teacher somewhere. The advantages are so significant. You know, you've got a contact person in the building. You've got someone that can be a voice for a mom and a dad, or can be able to advocate for any athlete should they need some other assistance. Plus, they understand education-based athletics. They understand what a kid's life looks like during the day. He knows he probably just rolled out of bed and made it to the bus and got here on time, and he's probably not functioning quite well until about 10 o'clock. And so if you're not an educator, you don't understand that. If you're a coach from an outside organization, maybe a club or some other private institution where you probably have some financial gain, that's probably why you're in that business. You know, the ideas and the priorities and the philosophy is so different than what we try to teach here, and that's probably the significant difference. Obviously, the challenge is having enough teaching opportunities to try to get qualified coaches and teachers here. I would venture to guess it's that way across most of the schools in the state, maybe even the nation, just given the financial situation most people are in. But it's certainly an advantage to have a teacher coach in our building.
And I would also say that, you know, if you take a look at education, you know, when I first started in the early 2000s, there were significant amounts of openings, teaching openings in buildings and then coaching openings, and that has really, really tightened up, especially the last 5 or 6 years. So when you have a coaching opening and a teaching opening at the same time, you hope that those two things can work out. But as we've seen, and we all know that when you have a teaching opening, there are so many needs in the building beyond just coaching. Right. That opening might be filled with. But, you know, as Robert alluded to, I think it's so important for us, for out-of-building coaches, to make sure that they understand what we're about, what our mission is as a school, and what kids are dealing with during the day. And I you know, even our in-building coaches, I mean, you got to remember those people are teaching 5 classes a day, and then they've got to switch gears and put on a whistle and be enthusiastic no matter how their school day went, right? So that's always a constant challenge. But yeah, having those in-building people is just huge.
So I thought it was an excellent presentation as well, and so thank you very much. I learned a lot, and you know, I had some biases kind of going into it, which were, you know, there was a freeze on a number of on starting new athletic programs and new clubs and so forth for many years, and so my bias going into this was that, well, when we lifted the freeze, that all of a sudden you know, our ADs were gonna come forward with a number of requests in programs, but I see that we've, you know, we have a pretty large offering relative to what other schools are offering. And it seems like we have very high levels of participation, you know, at both high schools. And so I think that you've done a really nice job about describing kind of from a broad perspective, you know, what some of the philosophies and culture of the program. I think it's very impressive. The leadership program with students that you're describing, you know, to me sounds like an excellent opportunity for our young students to learn about leadership skills and have positive impact on other students at both high school. And I think that's a fabulous experience as well. I will share kind of the follow-up detail questions that I have with Annette and Superintendent. The one question I would ask you today is, I know a little bit about how, as a district, we evaluate teachers, you know, through the Danielson method and things of that nature. I don't know as much about how we evaluate the effectiveness of coaches. And so I was wondering maybe if you could share a little bit about kind of how you do that and how you help the coaches with their, you know, professional development, you know, on kind of a hands-on basis.
I think it's a progression while you're in season with coaches. You know, Robert and I try to make an effort to meet almost on a weekly basis for maybe 15 minutes and just kind of do a check-in with coaches. How's everything going? How's your staff? Is there anything you need? Do you have any issues that we can help you? You know, just kind of as a, you know, real quick diagnostic, how's everything going? I think the other thing, too, is I hope you could see the amount of work that this job demands, and it's very easy to get caught hammering away on emails all day on your computer. So I think we both really try to make an effort to get out of our office and to go watch a practice or go to maybe sometimes an away game if it's convenient, just so that we can observe and see our coaches in action. I also think, too, that if we see something that maybe didn't seem right, that we have a conversation with a coach or with the head coach about an assistant coach, something that we saw. At the end of the season, then we do have a district evaluation tool that we use. I think it's an excellent tool, quite honestly. It's very, you know, very student-centered, but also talks about helping our coaches grow professionally. And so we have those sit-downs at the end of each season where we review the season with them and really try to partner on helping them get better.
Well, I'm just going to say thank you very much. I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful thing. We really appreciate hearing that the facilities and everything that was done under the referendum, you know, that you're using it. You know, we see it by your numbers, but it's another thing to either see the kids or when we've toured it, see how many hours a day these things are being used. So, you know, as a board, when we're managing projects or allotting money for projects or trying to pass a referendum, to see the end user in real flesh and blood is really a wonderful experience. So we thank you for your presentations.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, we will move to a small bit of business, even though this is a 3S meeting. I would like a motion, please, to approve the revised minutes. We have the April 12th, 2017 regular board meeting, the April 12th, 2017 closed session, the April 13th, 2017 special board meeting, and the April 13th, 2017 closed session. Is there a motion?
Excuse me, Madam President, can we take the April 12th, 2017 separate, because I want to vote on against those minutes and in favor of the others?
Okay, so we're regular, closed, or?
Regular.
Okay, so we'll do the April 12th, 2017 closed, April 13th, 2017 special, and April 13th, 2017 closed. May I have a motion for those three sets of minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All the opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
I abstained from the
Those,
12th.
the 12th?
You did them all together. I thought you were doing them separately.
No, we're doing 3 of them and then 1. So you needed 2 and 2.
Yes, that's okay. I'll abstain from the thing, doesn't matter.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
May I have a motion to approve the revised minutes for the April 12th, 2017 regular board meeting? Is there a second? Is there a second for the April 12th? Okay. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor of the April 12th, 2017 regular board meeting revised minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Abstentions?
Yes.
All right.
Abstain.
Okay, great. All right, motion passes. We now move to discussion items. Give me one moment, please. All our meeting minutes. The policy committee has reviewed and amended the following policies to bring them into legal compliance. Policy 4-175, convicted child sex offender criminal background check and/or screen notifications. Policy 5-260, student teachers, also press update. Policy 7-50, school admission and student transfer to and from non-district schools, press update. Policy 7-60, student residency, and policy 7-62, change in residency status. May I ask for a motion, please? Discussion. Oh, I'm sorry, these are discussion items. So if anyone has any discussion or questions about these, I don't know, Stacy, if you or Mr. Krieger wanted to say anything about why they're being brought up this evening?
I think just in general, briefly, all of these came up recently as press updates. So
Correct.
we have updated them all recommendations for us.
Okay, and Sue or Andrea, is there anything else you wanted to add to that, or that's?
No, not really. There were a couple things that we checked in terms of like ISBE, like some of the changes in the student-teacher one, et cetera. So I think it's important to know that as we're doing the research behind it, we look at the press recommendations, modifications, and then make sure that contextually it makes sense, or we double-check with other sources to make sure that we've got the right kind of language and improvements to those policies.
I would just say some of the language we double check because of some legal recommendations to improve the policy themselves, and those are things that we went back and forth on several times to ensure that we were really accurate with having the most appropriate policy in place.
We also had some questions from some board members regarding birth certificates and things like, so we had Tom checked out what had to remain in the policy by law and what could be removed. For example, one of the things that we took out, because we don't have tuition-based students in 7-62, where it references a school code and tuition, we have a policy that says
No longer.
we don't have tuition-based. So we took it out so that it mirrored what we do or don't do, right? Isn't that why we took it out?
Yep.
Julie, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question that was answered in this afternoon, but I'd like the answer on the record. And that's around policy 7-50. I know the policy committee did a lot of research and had a lot of discussion on the added language that is required by press, but it still sounds kind of oppressive, if that's the right word. And if you could just explain the reason for adding that language around requiring birth certificate and the ramifications if a birth certificate is not provided. And also, I know you did some research on surrounding districts and what they have, and I think it'd be important to share that.
Tom, do you want to respond?
Yeah, sure. Is there a way to get the actual language? 7-50?
Mm-hmm.
It's the paragraph 1 there.
Yeah.
The underlying language is new. This has been a part of the press policy for quite some time. We just haven't updated our policy accordingly. The question we had was about notification of law enforcement and how that seems kind of onerous. I'm not sure I get the name of the statute right here. So we checked with the attorneys on this, and the opinion was that that language is required, and it's required specifically by 2 state laws, the Missing Children's Records Act and the Missing Children Registration Law.
focus and the reason for that language is to protect missing children, it's not to punish other children who might not have easy access to this sort of documentation. That's the reason the language is in there. We checked with, I did a quick check today of several neighboring districts. Niles, Barrington, Lake Forest, Libertyville, Stevenson, and Praise Lake all have adopted this policy language somewhere between, it looks like 4 and 1 years ago. The only district I could find that hadn't yet adopted it was New Trier, here operating under a policy from 2006.
No, I think it was, I think that there was the, but there was the question that you, that I thought you had asked, somebody had asked about the police, involving the police, and we have to leave it in, although it's not necessarily something that is done automatically here, but because of what the law said, we have to have it in the policy.
There's a certain window of time in which
Right.
if the student or the family doesn't supply the required
Mhm.
documentation, that we have to notify law enforcement, but before we notify law enforcement, we would consult with our attorney. It sounds like there is significant leeway in the actual operation of the policy for us not to have to notify law enforcement about this, but we just need to handle it on a case-by-case basis with through our legal counsel to be sure that we're in compliance with the statutes. So, to a large extent, this will be a training issue with the school registrars and other people who are kind of like the first line of talking to parents and families about these issues.
And just a follow-up, I did also check District 109 and 112, two of the centers districts. I didn't check 106, but the 109 and 112 both have that identical language.
David, you had a question?
So, can I just ask a question? So this, when I'm reading this, it doesn't sound like there is, in fact, any discretion at all by our staff. It basically says that, the way I read it, that if they don't provide a certified copy, then the superintendent or designee will immediately notify law enforcement agencies. So why do we believe that there's,
Wiggle room.
sorry?
Wiggle room.
Right.
Why do we
Yeah,
believe that it's anything other than unambiguous? And by the way, I completely respect that it's protecting our students.
Well, there's a 30-day window. It says within 30 days, so within that 30-day period, the communication, which.
So the lack of a birth certificate does not prevent the student.
Correct.
No, I understand. But there was a statement made that there's wiggle room or that we don't necessarily have to. But I mean, the way that I read it is that within 30 days they have to provide it, and that if they don't, then you immediately have to notify law enforcement. This is not. It doesn't say you have to take them out of school. It just says you have to notify law enforcement so they can make certain, presumably, that it's not a abduction case or anything else.
And our efforts would be within that window of communicating with the family and confirming with our law firm as well that this is something that may be coming up and there's a 30-day window and giving them that date. But as Tom stated, the students would be enrolled.
Right.
And so it's just something because of missing children, this is a very important item that we would have to comply with.
If you go to the next paragraph down after 2-3, it's the orange part, I think, that further down. I just wanted to note that one of the comments that I sent in had to do, we talk a lot about does not present his or her permanent, and I think we said as we go forward in light of our new policies that we put in they or their. And so I'm only saying it because I know there are grammatical issues, but we did say we would look at policies as they come up, not going back to everything, but as they come up to correct language. So since we're discussing it and it'll be an action item at the next meeting, I thought it would be good to call attention to it so we continue on that continuum with regard to our policies in general.
Yeah, and the other thing that we're gonna do is just try to avoid the situation if we can grammatically. So in this
Right.
case, it might say we'll enroll
The
a student
student's
even
record.
if the student does not present a permanent or temporary record.
Right.
Which is great. Either way, either to add it
Yeah.
incorrectly
Right.
grammatically or to make sure we don't need it, but just to be sensitive to it because I think we did make that commitment just going forward. Are there any other comments on the policies that are up for discussion?
The only other thing is, and somebody did ask a question about it before, the language that was removed from, and I don't know which policy it was, about the teachers, or, external contractors and identification of that sort of stuff. That is now in a different policy where it's supposed to be, so it just moved. It's not, it is still in place for the district.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, Policy Committee. All right. If there are no further comments, we will move on to action items. Action item 8A. So the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education accept the low bid for office and instructional paper from Midland Paper, Wheeling, Illinois, in the total amount of $92,813.59 for the school year 2017 and 18. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
This was discussed at our last meeting. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Gordon?
Aye.
Ms. Swaby? Aye. Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Mr. Small? Aye. Ms. Culver?
Aye.
Ms. Littleworth?
Aye, motion passes. We move to item 8B, the 2018-2019 school calendar. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the 2018-19 school calendar as presented. There is a breakdown, I'm glad it's up on the screen, of maybe 8 or 9 bullet points, which give the parameters for what the school calendar will look like. And there is a calendar in full color regalia, as usual, that will be attached and on the website. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
This was discussed also at our last meeting, and there were presentations by the school calendar committee, which was also thanked for their efforts, tremendous efforts in polling, surveying stakeholders in the community. So thank you, Dr. Colentis, Dr. Dignam, and everyone else who worked on the committee. Is there any discussion? Debbie?
I just want to clarify it, and I'd asked it at the last meeting, that when the calendar itself is published, that the holidays are not there, that it's simply school non-attendance, because, I don't know, I seem to remember, and this keeps coming up when we bring our calendars, that we're not supposed to have the religious holidays as reasons, even that it's just supposed to list non-attendance if we are a public school. That was my understanding. If I am in error, I thought somebody clarified that last time. But when we published the calendar, I thought that we are not to have religious holidays, even in parens.
Can we check that?
Well, we can double check it, Debbie.
Yeah, I just want to know, because I'm remembering it from past board experience.
At one point, we have removed the actual religious holiday name off of it, and then we've been asked to put it back on because it gets very confusing. People are saying, why are we off that day?
But my concern, of course, is a rule.
But we'll double check.
State of Illinois, I do know for Passover, they delineate, for example, like when elections can be and whatnot.
Well, they stated it's stated in the school code. That's not on a public school
Right.
calendar. That's something different. So that's why I just want to make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. That's all.
Yeah, we will double check, because the language we had was that for the holidays, we note those, but I understand what you're saying.
Right, I just don't know if
We'll double check
putting them in
the-
paren is still okay. That's all.
Okay, we'll double check.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. This is a roll call. If
I
there's-
have
I'm sorry,
discussion.
I didn't see.
I'm going to be voting against this policy, and I'll restate my reasons for it. I brought this up at the last meeting.
That's his motion.
I'm sorry?
Against the calendar.
Against the calendar. Did I say policy?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I will be voting against the calendar approval. It goes to the date on this calendar of December 21st, and we've said that the 18th, 19th, and 20th are finals. We've also said that if something happened where we needed to make up a day of finals, that we would look to the 21st, which is an institute day, and look for students to show up that day. And I think the response, and this is one where, there are different opinions, and I respect all opinions. Mine happens to be that it's not good enough to just communicate at the beginning of the year that that day may be used as a makeup day. I think given the busyness of holidays for traveling, people are booking flights and doing things early in the calendar year because it's such a busy time. And if many people, as a parent, if I look at a calendar at that time early in the calendar year and I see no school, I'm going to take advantage and book my flights on that Friday. And I just think that we're doing a disservice to the community to not communicate that as part of the calendar and only relying on a memo that would come out from principals. So I don't think that this is clear enough. Even at the bottom, we have a footnote about student attendance days if needed, and we specify that those would be President's Day, February 18th, and Pulaski Day, March 4th. We don't say anything about the 21st of December. So again, I just can't support the calendar if we really are thinking that students might need to show up on the 21st. Do you want to respond?
I would just say that there are, for example, even depends on when we would have to close the schools, but there could be other days within the calendar we may need to use, depending on, for example, Monday, April 22nd is possible. Depending on emergency day usage, that may be a day that we would have to add as well. So it's not just that one day in December, but we can.
And that's happened before, where it's a kind of a late decision to make up a day. It's just my concern about the December 21st is it's such a heavy travel period for so many people that I think we will lose a lot of students if we don't clarify early, when this calendar is published, that that's a potential.
We can clarify on the website. We can, when this is approved now, we can add that clarification language. What the concern here was within the calendar itself, muddling it up. So if it's a statement like we have here on the bottom, but also if this is passed tonight, that we have a notification box that's on our 3 websites, and you go and read about the new calendar coming up in 2 years, stating that, for example, there may be a date that we would use. We're certainly open to doing that. My concern was the language month by month, how we fit that in there. But we can notify as soon as this is passed and keep that up there until this calendar opens up, and then the principals send home their letters at the beginning of the school years when this count for that 18-19 school year.
David. Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle, did you want to first?
I was just going to ask my fellow board member if she had a specific recommendation about what you'd like to see.
Oh, God, I hadn't thought about it, but I could think about it. I think an asterisk on that in the calendar with a footnote just saying that in the event of a snow day during finals, that day may be used as a makeup day.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing we may want to do as well is that under that asterisk also explain that depending on when holidays fall, there may be other days during different years that we have one semester less days off than this current 18-19 school year. They're all going to look a little different. We'll just keep updating 2 years out. I think we can add that as well. I think that's informative.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm particularly sensitive about December 21st just because, again, that is I don't know, I'm sure it's not a majority of people who travel, but there's a significant percentage of people who travel around the holidays to be with family, and I just think that's an important day to acknowledge very early. So I don't know if I'm approving a calendar that'll have that asterisk or not. Does that?
Can I make a friendly amendment?
Sure.
I'm sorry, Annette, I could not hear that. No, but you said something.
Yeah, if you want to make a friendly amendment, you can. Who made the motion in the second?
Was Ms. Culver and Ms. Salty?
Does this same issue apply to June? 6th?
No, because we have the 7th through the 14th as makeup days, potentially. So the 7th is the last day if there are no makeup days. No, yeah.
Okay. So I would just, like to have a friendly amendment that we asterisk December 21st and note that it's a possible emergency day. Is that the right terminology?
and I'm willing to
Yes.
leave the terminology to you guys to figure out. But.
Well, we have to make a special motion.
Okay.
Is it, I mean, is that acceptable to that motion?
Ask Michelle first.
Oh, well, I'm just wondering if the staff is concerned that this would really be an issue. Like, I'm assuming this is only an issue if we have a snow day or some catastrophe where we have to close. So I know that Julie's really stuck on this one, but is it, and only because it seems like it's not that big of a deal, or else we wouldn't have structured the calendar this way.
Correct. I mean, we do not believe it's less likely to have that day used in December, given the weather is just starting, than it would be
As opposed to after.
after, when we have to restructure and look at, sub-Arctic type of weather, snow, something that, we've had in the past, but normally that's your January, February time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I would accept a friendly amendment.
I'd like to add before you decide what you're going to do
Oh,
with your
okay.
friendly amendment. I think Debbie brought up a point about holidays. We're going to look into that, whether you use the name of the holiday or not. We're leaving that to administration to do. I think we leave communications about when there are days off to administration. I don't know that we need to get into the weeds to the point of having a friendly amendment about rewriting the calendar where we need an asterisk calling attention to this particular day. I think we've made it known that we feel it's important that this date be noted in particular so people don't make plans, so we do it early on. And I'm not sure how that really affects the writing of the calendar, which is exactly what we just stayed away from doing by mentioning days or not with holidays, religious holidays. And I think they're very similar in that either we're rewriting this or we let administration, knowing our concerns, move on and do the schedule, or the calendar rather. So, Julie.
I see it as two very different issues. I think the issue Debbie brought up is a legal one. Should we legally include the religious names, and saying, if so, I think administration is agreeing we'll take them off if we legally shouldn't have them on there. And if there's no law, we could leave them on. I think that's kind of black and white and left to the administration to figure out the legality. On this particular matter, I'm not hung up on a non-issue. This was brought up during the.
No, I wasn't implying.
Okay.
I was just saying.
I'm sorry, I took it that way.
passionately
Maybe
about it. Yeah.
maybe because I'm feeling all alone here.
Can I ask a question?
Right.
Can I ask a question? Is it because it's finals, it's related to finals?
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
And
so I think that would probably
Thank you.
clarify everybody's
Yes.
concern. It's
Th-
not just student attendance.
That's a
because
perfect-
if we have to miss a day of finals, when will those finals
Thank
take
you.
place?
You said it very
And
exactly.
this is why I'm wondering if staff finds this to be a concern.
Right, okay.
When I think when Dr. Calentis and his team presented this, that was a concern that they called out, that if you have finals before winter break and things happen and there is a snow day or an emergency day on one of those final days, what happens? And we said we would look to that Friday. So that's, I think with the emphasis of this being because of finals, which differentiates it from like the April 22nd date, that's the importance I see. So I would not vote for the calendar unless we have the friendly amendment. Sounds like it'll pass anyway, so I'm not sure that's important. But I just feel for, as we stress communication and transparency, having it cleared up is an appropriate thing to do. And then if parents still want to book and gamble that it's not going to be a makeup day and they'll book their Friday flights, that's on them. It's not on us. So that's.
Any other comments, Elena?
Yeah.
Who's going to have to explain?
Oh.
I think Julie's concern is valid because I think, historically, I can at least remember one time when this did happen. On the other hand, I think that between central and building administration and the wisdom of parents, if we say to them, if you're going to book early, just go like after 1 p.m. That way you can still get 1 or 2 finals scheduled in that morning period and achieve that, but by the same token, because probably the kids will want to sleep in anyway. So I would say we have time and we have abundant expertise to be able to handle the sensitivity to this event happening very well.
So there is a friendly amendment, so the question now becomes if in fact the people who made the motion and the second would like to accept that friendly amendment.
I'm sorry to make this so ridiculous, but what is a friendly amendment?
That means that you would change, the
No, no,
motion would.
what is it? What do you want it to say?
The motion would add an asterisk with a special bullet noting December 21st in a special way on the calendar.
So there'd
Or
be a-
not December 21st, but whatever that day happens
As
to be
opposed
that
to
year.
just adding it in the bottom here, where it's in bold.
Already.
This could be, well, it's not down here. Can you just add it to the bold area?
I guess
Well,
I'll,
that's what we're talking about.
well, so I would make the friendly amendment, if I can modify David's a little bit, and I think he said it, to go ahead and say December 21st, asterisk that, and mention the fact that it's because of finals. I think that takes on some added significance. And so the asterisk at the bottom, and there's room, I'm sure they could squeeze another sentence in there, would just say, this date may be used as a finals makeup in the event of an emergency day during the previous school days, something like that.
Elena?
Since we have our principals right here, would it be appropriate to ask them for an opinion, just to advise us on this?
I have the language that I put at the bottom of the final schedule for the last 12 years. It's very similar to what you're talking about.
Oh, cool.
So you kind of have it under control.
In the event of a school cancellation due to a snow day, the finals missed on that day will take place on Friday. So for example, Wednesday's a snow day, then the finals will occur.
Perfect.
What a concept.
It's been there all along, right?
So it's been there all along. Thank you.
It's not on the, yeah, it's not on the official district calendar, but
Right.
it's on all of the communications we send out
Okay.
about our Highland Park High School calendar. And we share with the Deerfield team, so I don't know if it's on theirs or not, but it's easy to add to our internal documents.
Okay. David?
Well, that's just like a very narrow use of the weather day, right? There could be a weather day earlier that you decide that you're going to use and extend, right, then extend it. So I'm not sure that disclosure kind of completely
Just related to the finals, right.
addresses what Julie's question was. So I think we're kind of back to the idea of the asterisk with the explanation.
I still think the question is whether or not administration can handle it, or whether we need to put it in the formal calendar when it hasn't been in the formal calendar, but they've handled it just after.
I know, but we do have a friendly amendment.
Yeah,
so
no, I
think
know.
that's
I'm
something
just
that
talking to the friendly
we have
amendment.
People to decide whether they want to accept it or not.
Right. Stacy?
And my goal for doing it is I would love to have a calendar that was approved unanimously by the board,
Well,
not
and-
controversial.
So I guess the thing for me is, and the friendly, trying to compromise on those, the friendly amendment, that there will be something on this calendar, but we're going to leave it to administration to figure out exactly what it is,
Right.
and it will mention finals and the Friday, and
So we don't have
whether
to
it's
work.
an asterisk or
Yeah.
what Casey said or something else.
Can I ask one question just to make sure I'm clear? If there's an emergency day in early December,
It could still end, right?
would finals be on the 21st?
No.
Or is the 21st reserved only if the emergency day is the 18th, 19th, or 20th? The last part's correct. So in other words, we're only thinking that we would need the 21st on the remote chance that we have a snow day on the 18th, or emergency day on the 18th, 19th, or 20th, which we're all agreeing is probably not going to happen. But to me, if that's a chance, I would still want to communicate it on the official calendar, because otherwise we're saying institute days are not in attendance, and because it's finals, I think that's important.
Well, I sold my crystal ball last week. It tells me the weather. So I would say, I don't know how we could have that we could choose language. I still think leaving it up to administration if they feel that it's an issue. But I'm not the one that made and seconded the amendment, and I'm not the one, made and seconded the motion, and I'm not the one that made the friendly amendment, so. But I still think.
Sure am regretting.
I'm
That's
actually, would you be comfortable? I mean, there is a friendly amendment, so if they haven't responded.
Modify the friendly amendment, there would be appropriate disclosure language at the bottom of the calendar about the Friday, December 25th.
Well, that's a very nice offer, but Julie, I would simply ask you if after all this discussion, you don't think that if the administration has heard loud and clear that we think this is a concern, and therefore adopting the calendar and putting in proper notifications as they see fit isn't a better way to go. But I agree with David, I would really love to see this be unanimous. And so.
I think
that's
there's a
my only
friendly
comment.
amendment. Let's see if it gets accepted and seconded.
Okay, so let's go no friendly amendment,
Okay,
but
so-
assume that there will be some communication relative to finals.
Right.
Because I think that's the only sticking point here, is that we're talking specifically about finals. So I would say no friendly amendment.
So you're not accepting it, and,
continue with-
and who was the other person too? Elena, and are you accepting it?
I agree with Michelle.
Okay, so they're not accepting it. So right now, there's a motion for the calendar, and if there's no further discussion, we're going to vote on that, and that's what we're gonna vote on. I mean, if it were defeated, then we could make a new motion, but frankly, since it's the essence of the calendar, I will move forward unless there's further discussion. So, hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Very important calendar.
Ms. Culver. Aye. Ms. Lobby.
Aye.
Mr. Small.
Aye.
Ms. Meyer.
Aye.
Ms. Hyman.
Aye.
Ms. Gordon.
Nay.
Ms. Little.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
I know, and for the record, I really don't want there to be a snow day.
Wait to see what happens.
Okay, we move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes personnel, financial reports, and Board of Education travel and meal expenses?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Everyone's
Elena.
waiting for the friendly amendment.
Everybody's hearing that.
Elena, would you please provide a report on the bills?
I would be delighted to. We looked at I pulled five different bills that I thought would possibly stump Barry, but of course they didn't. He gave me wonderful explanations, and each time we have this conversation, I learn more. So thank you, Barry.
Is there any further discussion on the consent agenda?
I have a question. It's just process. If, let's say, regarding 9C, what if there is a board member that doesn't eat one of the meals?
It should reflect a 0. If that, for example, if the person.
I mean, I
isn't
understand,
there.
but that one said that I ate it. No, I want to know what the purpose of listing out I mean, if we're supposed to do it, then we do it. But if I did not partake in a particular meal, am I then, is there a 0 next to it, or should there be a 0 next to it, I guess? So that's my only question as far as what we're supposed to be doing, what the level of accountability is on this one issue.
So we all know that the law changed, and we have to enumerate
Right.
when we all have it.
That's my only question.
And so that's fine. And so, for example, when someone's not going to be there, obviously they get a 0.
Okay.
But if you did not partake, but it's by your name, I think we need to find out whether, in fact, we need to say that that board member took food. So I think that we need to just check for future reference.
I just don't know what the
law
procedure
is
is, that's all.
ridiculous. Okay.
Can I
Oh,
also
Julie.
say, I think some of the challenge is it's just based on a conversation that Sandra and I had about this, it's an administrative nightmare, this new law, because at first I think there was the sense that you had to track, okay, I didn't have a cookie, I had 2 waters, like how specific, and I think the simplification of just taking whoever's there and dividing it up was felt to be a reasonable compromise to balance the law and the administrative burden. So I know that's, okay, perfect.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful.
Never mind.
Debbie, you're satisfied, right? Okay, that's good.
Somebody else enjoyed it?
Okay, so this is, if there's no further discussion, this is a roll call, please.
Mr. Small.
Aye.
Ms. Lobby.
Aye.
Ms. Gordon?
Aye.
Ms. Culver?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer? Aye. Ms. Littleworth?
Aye, motion passes. We move to our second citizens' comment period. The legal statement is posted. Are there any further citizens' comments? Mr. Esker?
Thank you. I would like to comment and congratulate the presentations by our athletic directors and our sports programs at both schools. It's extensive, it's amazing, and the kids have a wonderful experience. I'd also like to thank David Small for asking about how coaches are evaluated in professional development and things along that line. We heard an answer about how we meet weekly with coaches, check in, see how things are working and things along that line. And while I absolutely believe that happens at one school, I know for a fact it does not happen at both. And I would not stand up here during citizens' comments and say this as my first communication. But it is not what happens in all cases. So I would ask the board to please consult. I have communicated with the superintendent about an issue that's absolutely appalling. And it needs to be addressed and it needs to be remedied. There are head coaches that have not been met with, not been evaluated. We have a year-to-year contract. And DEA has said we do not have any tenure rights related to coaching. It's different for what you do as teaching and coaching. We know they're year-to-year contracts. But nowhere would we agree that a coach would not be evaluated once and yet have things said about them and dismissed without an evaluation. It is appalling. It is beneath the dignity of this district. And it offends me that I have to stand up here and air our dirty laundry during citizens' comments. People who've not been evaluated, a practice never attended, and yet the coaches are criticized about what has happened. Okay, let me just address with what I thought was longstanding practice and some of the introductory stuff. In general, it's been my understanding and longstanding practice, especially at Highland Park High School, that an evaluation would occur every year for head coaches. And some head coaches at both schools have said, yeah, this would happen and under multiple athletic directors. It's not one particular one. Evaluated on multiple categories. Typically there would be an end of the year meeting and a final evaluation, a written report. That way if you weren't going to retain the coach, you'd have some grounds to say you weren't retaining. It would be understood that if you didn't receive an evaluation and didn't have any of that, the general belief would be that you're going to be retained for the following year. So the fact that this is pretty much standing practice, and by the way, the athletic directors typically do this with head coaches, but it's the head coaches that evaluate the assistant coaches, and then the AD signs off on it. So our athletic directors don't have to. We saw there was 120 coaches at each school. The ADs don't evaluate those. They evaluate the head coaches. But before we get cavalier about dismissing people that we think have issues, they should at least have an observation and an evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I need a motion for the board to meet in closed session for the discussion of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony of a complaint lodged against the employee in the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity, and for the placement of individual students in special ed programs and other matters relating to individuals. No action will be taken. Is there a motion? Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Lobby?
Aye.
Ms. Hyman?
Aye.
Mr. Small?
Aye.
Ms. Gordon?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Culver? Aye. Ms. Littleworth?
Aye. Motion passes. We will recess for 5 minutes. meet in closed session at 9:15. Thank you all for your attendance and your assistance.